Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway at the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. We're heard on stations like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref in Evansville, WBRO in Marengo, and around the world on YouTube, where you should subscribe and hit that like button right now to never miss a show. We're brought to you by AndyMooreHonda.com, where you will always find the best deals on new and used vehicles. And Endeavor Hospitality, the Wow Club. Go to your Apple App Store, Google Play Store now, and sign up to start earning Wow rewards today at places like BB's Market, home of the best selection of custom meats, in-house made products, and a full-size bakery. You can join us each Friday for the show live there at BB. So looking forward to being back there. I'm Jim Coyle, my co-host Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com with us. We've got another big-time show ready. How's it going, brother? How was your weekend?
I had a great weekend. I predicted a lot of college football games correctly. The Braves swept
a lot of college football games correctly.
Not just a hat rack. The Braves swept the Mets. So they are in first place. They magic number is 1. And I watched a lot of NFL football on Sunday, so I've got no complaints.
I bet you the odds of getting Kevin Brockway on here right now are not very good.
I hope.
Man, if you are, buddy, what's going on with those bets?
They're betting.
What exactly? Welcome aboard, everybody. Larry jumping on offer. Scott on as well. Five lefts. Steve, Wyatt, guys are hitting us up early. Would appreciate it. Scott says it was an awful weekend if you're in the state of Indiana sports fan, unless you're a Purdue fan. And yeah, that's a fact, man. Not sure which one is going in the worst. Well, neither are going in a great direction, the Colts or Indiana football, but didn't work out for either of them over the weekend. Some of the games we'll talk about. Do you think that Michael says it's tunnel time? It's not. Is it Jack? It's not the quarterback. I don't think.
No.
For one thing, why is Josh Henderson not seeing the ball more?
Great question.
He ran all over Nebraska. And how about Mr. Jalen Lucas? He's a budding superstar. I mean, you got to get the ball into the hands of your playmakers. And those two guys right there are maybe the two best on this team. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but it's not. I agree. It's not the quarterback.
No,
it's not the quarterback. There's a whole other issue of things there, but we'll get to that. Darren jumping on as well. Michael, he does miss. His percentage is not good. But I also wonder if that is because he's having to throw so many times. There's just a whole litany of things that we could talk about there.
Not only that, but this is now, we're through game 5. We're basically halfway through the season. And again, I don't know how to phrase this politely, so I'm not going to, but he gets his ass kicked every single game. And that mental clock of when you've got to release the football, it gets shorter and shorter and shorter. He's got to get the ball out in a hurry, because if not, he's taking a sack.
That's a great point.
And part of what you said is true, Jim. If the more throws you have, the more times you're going to have an incompletion or be inaccurate. So I think it's a combination of Indiana's throwing the ball up because they can't run it, and then second of all, he's got that time clock in his head that I've got about, I don't know, a half a second to throw the football before I'm going to have somebody in my lap. I mean, that is the biggest issue. And Jack Tuttle's going to be dealing with the same thing. Don Fischer said it, and we'll talk to him later, but he said it a few weeks ago. There's potential that if Michael Penix was playing, he might be out this season already because of how many hits he's
Yes.
taking.
No question about that. Brian also hitting us up. Good morning. He's hello, back home, safe from Florida. He found out that the Ugly Grouper is co-owned by Scott Rowland. Yes, it is. And that they are expanding. There you go. Yes, you are correct on both counts. Renata jumping on as well, says Nebraska and Wisconsin both have fired their coaches. She knows Indiana is stuck with Allen for 2 more years because Indiana doesn't care about football when it's time. Part of it is contracts.
Yep.
They can't afford to do certain things, but also you can't just hire and fire all the time. You've got to, and I'm not saying it has or it has not been given the opportunity, but you just cannot just go through football coaches. I'm not saying Indiana is doing that, but I don't know where they would go, but you've got the entire season. Maybe they get it turned around. They've got the pieces in place to do it. You've got guys like Josh Henderson that we talked about that are there. They've got the thing that's scary is the defense. What the hell has happened to this defense that is now back under the auspices of Tom Allen and was supposed to be pretty good with a litany of veterans returning?
Yeah, that's the biggest question to me because they got torched deep a couple times, and Nebraska's got a high-powered offense, even though their defense has been really bad. The way that the defense has looked through the first 5 games, I mean, I think we can say I think the linebackers are playing really well. I think Dason McCullough, Cam Jones, I think those guys are playing really well. The defensive line doesn't get a great push. At times they've been adequate, at other times they've struggled. But the glaring issue is the defensive backfield and how these guys just get burned. Like it looks,
which is shocking. That's shocking.
And not only that, it happened in the second half on that 20 on that whatever, I don't remember the yardage, but that touchdown pass from Casey Thompson to Trey Palmer. I mean, he had nobody in his general direction. That was an easy 70-yard touchdown pass. I mean, you can't have that in those type of games, and Indiana has done that now multiple times. But that was a key situation where you absolutely can't let it happen. And once again, we saw it.
Plenty of time to talk about all that. It's Jason jumping on that Mets bandwagon too, or rather the nice to see that over the weekend the Mets proved that they're I can't read this.
They're proved that the Yankees are New York's baseball team.
Yeah. I don't think that the Yankees need any help from the Mets on that. I'm pretty sure that that's been pretty much solidified. But the Mets fans, they like to jump in there. But man, that's a hard one. You give that up. Yeah. But they're still gonna make the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
So that doesn't matter. Let's see. Tim's little NASCAR action over the weekend down at Talladega. Of course, a big race. Chase Elliott coming up with a win. I'm trying to go through any other non-football related comments at the moment because we're going to get back to that. Don Fischer is going to be joining us, so we'll be talking about that as well. We'll talk about these questions. 5 Less says, do you think Indiana should hire a coach whose name is recognizable nationally? Well, if they were to do that at some point, well, absolutely. I mean, in this day and age, I don't know how unless you find that guy. But when you find that guy, he won't be here long.
Right.
So it's a tricky deal. We'll get into that. In much more detail, of course. Like I said, Don Fischer's going to join us today. Looking forward to that. What was some of the Illinois? No shocker. John mentioned it when we were first talking before we came on the show, but Indiana, that win is looking as well. That's the best win that they have right now.
Yeah.
They're going to beat a team that probably is going to might end up second in the Big Ten West. Possibly.
They could win it the way they're playing right now.
That would be the greatest shocker of all. But Minnesota did get handled over the weekend.
They did.
They got hammered. That was a shocker.
Not to some of us.
Well, yeah, they cost me. That cost me in one. So, but yeah, they Purdue steps up and does what they need to do. They go on the road. That's a gigantic win.
It is a huge win considering their 2-2 start, and to get off to Big Ten West play on that type of foot. Now, I will say that Mohamed Ibrahim did not play in that game, so that makes a huge difference in the outcome. And these offenses were trying to gift the defense presence. I mean, there were a lot of turnovers, a lot of really bad throws in this game. But the fact that Purdue won a game with the ground attack is something that I don't think we've ever seen under Jeff Brom. And they ran the football effectively. Like they catered their offense to what they needed to be able to do to win a football game. So that was, I was impressed with how Purdue closed out that game.
Yes, because it shows that that they have the confidence to do that. Something I thought the Indiana team had to do it, and they had the chance to do that. I hate going back to that game, but Sean says his concern is without a sizable financial injection, that program is destined to be a bottom feeder. Like racing, the teams that win are spending the most money. They need coaches, facilities, and promotion. We didn't talk about Northwestern's. Did we talk about Northwestern's new stadium coming up?
I don't know if we did.
$800 million stadium that they're building. Looks like a soccer stadium.
I was just gonna say, do you have an Ireland shirt on? Because it looked like they went to Ireland and got inspired by that stadium that they played in, and we're gonna redesign their entire. Now, I mean, it's probably gone back further than that, but that's exactly what I thought too. I was like, this is a European soccer stadium.
Well, they'll probably use it for both soccer teams, both soccer programs, men's, women's, and football. They're going to do concerts and that whatnot. We'll get back to all of these. But yeah, there's a comment that Tim made about Mark Stoops. He was there. It took him a while down there, and that's in the big SEC East. So we got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, joins us up next. Brought to you by our good friends from BB's Market, where we'll be this Friday. Man, it's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. Can't wait as always. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington,
This whole house is a mess. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Damn. Oh.
How you mean I don't have a belt on?
I made whiskey pie over the weekend.
What?
It's like,
Morning, Don.
Hey, John, how are you?
We are all doing just fine.
Whiskey pie?
yeah. It's basically pecan pie with a splash of bourbon or lemon, you put bourbon or rye in it.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
30 seconds.
I'll try not to blow my nose when I'm on the air.
Hey, don't worry about it. It's that time of year.
Free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on this station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, joins us now, brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant, where each Wednesday at 7:05 you can find him along with Coach Tom Allen for Inside Indiana Football. Don, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get carried away with any positives at this point. I mean, I'm going to sit here and say I'm just okay.
Yeah. I was looking at some of the from over the weekend, and boy, some guys that stood out. Josh Henderson, sure would have liked to seen him get the ball more. Jalen Lucas, those guys are, man, just didn't happen enough, seems like.
Well, guys, I'm going to tell you something, and I've been railing on this morning on a couple of other shows, and I'm going to rail on it here too. We're missing DJ Matthews and we're missing Cam Camper, right? Two wide receivers that are dynamic in many respects. DJ Matthews, certainly one of your most dynamic players on your football team. And then we see another one that goes out there in 3 plays that sparks this team to a touchdown. And Jalen Lucas, a true freshman from Houma, Louisiana, who goes out there and breaks ankles on that 34-yard run. We know he can do that because he's also returned kicks a couple of times that were very impressive. One was it against Idaho? I can't remember. He had a big return against somebody earlier this season. And he plays 3 plays, helps lead us to a touchdown, and we never see him again on the football field in that same role. I do not understand that. You're missing 2 of your most dynamic players in Camper and Matthews. Why are you not going to give, that kid a chance? And I've said this many times throughout my programs this morning, and you guys are the last group that I do, or, the last guys I work with on a Monday morning. I just don't get it. I mean, how in the world?
You're not the only one.
How do you not play a kid like that? I know he's a freshman, and I know that freshmen make mistakes. Well, if that's the case, then why are we playing seniors that make mistakes? Look, this kid's dynamic, and he has got tools, and we've seen it. We saw it in practices. I saw a little highlight of him playing in the 7-on-7 this summer. I mean, he broke everybody's ankles. He went up against. It was amazing how good he looked catching the ball, number one, and not just running it, but catching the ball and then making people miss. And we're not seeing him. And I'm sitting here going, with 2 of your best guys out, and another guy that's capable of doing the things maybe even a little more dynamic than the other two. Why is he not playing? And again, I don't get it.
You're not alone, Don. Like I said, along with Josh Henderson, he only gets 5 carries, averages 4.4 yards a carry in that first half. I don't even talk about Jalen Lucas's average because it's off the freaking charts at 13 with those 3 runs that he had in 39. But it was both cases. Sure would have loved to see both of those guys get the ball a lot more, and especially in the second half when it was critical, when Indiana needed something, needed a spark, needed to get that. You're on the road and in an environment that they're desperate for a win, as are you, but they're more desperate. And I think, and we saw who wanted that win, I think, is what ended up happening. But yeah, some of the decisions are really questionable.
Yeah, they are. And of course, in the second half, we needed somebody to come up and help this football team in the second half. And we had 83 offensive yards in the second half. We had 3 first downs. We had 1 of 8 third down conversions. You needed somebody to come out there and help this team. And he was not put on the field, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that he's the only guy. But honestly, at this point, you've got to use every tool that you have, and to have that kind of tool available and not use it, just a mistake. That's the nicest way I could put it.
And not only was this were there frustrations with some of the personnel decisions. I mean, this was a game in which Indiana couldn't do. They scored 21 points, and you look back at the stats, you almost scratching your head and saying, "How did they get that many points in this game?" I know they got a defensive touchdown, but 2 of 15 on third downs. You have 11 penalties for 92 yards. And the thing about it was, you look at Nebraska's other side, it wasn't all that much better. The offense is just struggling so much right now. And then I go back to, once again, the defensive secondary, which was supposed to be a strength, gives up a 71-yard touchdown pass late in that game. I don't know if it's because they're on the field too much. I don't know what the case is, but you look at some of the things you thought were going to be the strength of this team, and right now it's just not.
Well, that's the mystery here. The defensive backfield should be the strength of this ball club. I mean, those guys are all guys that have been around, are playing their 4th or 5th year of college football, have been starters from the beginning of their careers for the most part. If they haven't been starters, they played a ton. And they're making mistakes that you would not expect guys like them to make, simply because, that first series, the very first series that Nebraska scores on, it's a 3-play series. And we go 1, 2, 3 and out in our first series, and then they score in 3 plays. What is going on here? And this is not the first time it's happened. It happened last week as well. Right now, this football team has got to start looking in the mirror a little bit, number one. And then number 2, you got to fix an offensive line with whatever it's scheming or whatever you have to do to change things, because right now they can't run the football effectively, and they sure as heck can't protect the quarterback, not the way that they're playing right now. And that's even getting Zach Carpenter back, who didn't play the center position, which is where he's supposed to be at, but they put him in there because he's a better offensive blocker, supposedly, than anybody else that they have. And they move him into the left guard position so he can play, because obviously he can't snap the balls effectively with whatever he's wrapped up with in his right hand, which is his snapping hand, because of the injury that he had. So he's playing out of position to some degree, but at the same time, he's supposed to be one of your best blockers. And then you've got Katic playing the center position. Well, we didn't see any bad snaps from Katic for the most part. He did a good job in that regard. And I assume that he's a pretty good blocker, but we're still not being able to protect the quarterback. Connor Bazelak was 50% on the day, right? And he was basically the same the week before, because we can't protect him well enough. So it's an offensive line issue, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, but it's a factor in this football team right now, and I don't know how you fix it. And now you're going to go up against the number 4 team of the country as your next opponent. And unless you play some kind of perfect football, I don't see how you get it done.
No, confidence has got to be a problem now, especially for this Hoosier team after losing that game at Nebraska. And when you have Michigan coming in, who I still don't know if they're not the best team in the Big Ten yet or not, but they're going to put a definitive challenge onto Indiana. And with the defense playing the way it has been, it's scary. But it's fundamentals. Dylan, you mentioned Dustin, or rather, you mentioned the penalties, or it's just been a constant. They make critical mistakes at critical times. That's the problem, is they're making them at critical times, and it ruins drives. I've seen it week after week where a drive gets ruined, and this team just does not have the firepower to have that luxury to give up those kinds of drives. And it's just the fundamentals has really been disappointing on this team.
Well, and fundamentals are key. There's no question about that. But the silly penalties are even a bigger problem, in my opinion. And that is basically discipline. It's a discipline issue. And trust me, I'm not sitting here saying that Tom Allen doesn't preach discipline and all that kind of stuff. I'm just talking about players understanding that you can't make those kinds of mistakes. And there are ways to keep from making those kinds of mistakes, and yet you're making them. So, and the only way to change that is sit down here. You're right here beside me. You're not going to play in the football game if you can't stop making silly mistakes. Anyway, I'm getting way off base here, but I say this football team is a better football team, in my opinion, than we have seen thus far this year. I don't think they played even close to their best football. And I don't know why that is. All I know is we haven't seen it at this point. They haven't played a full 60-minute game in any way, shape, or form. And right now, that's what they need. And they're going to have it this week if they're not going to be blown out of the stadium on Saturday.
And one of the things that I'm concerned with, if I'm an Indiana fan heading into this Michigan game, and really for the rest of the season, is we saw this last year at one point. Tempers spilled over, and I don't remember the players who were involved with it, but there was some finger pointing, there was some high emotions on the sideline, and at times that's good. But I wonder now too, as we talked about certain position groups, like I think the linebackers have played extremely well. I think Connor Bazelak does everything he can. I think the wide receivers, when they have time to get the ball, I think they can make some good things happen. I wonder about finger pointing among the players, because coming into this season, a lot of guys, Cam Jones said, I did not want to go out the way last season ended.
Right.
And boy, if you don't fix some things, you're not going to be 2-10, but there's a chance that you're 3-9 or 4-8. And that's not how anybody wants to go out at Indiana. So I feel like there could be some finger pointing at some point. If what you said, Don, if this team doesn't start to fix some things quick and start playing better football that we know they're capable of.
Yeah, and look, you don't have to beat Michigan to impress me, but you've got to challenge Michigan, and you've got to go out there and play with your hair on fire and compete like crazy. Exactly. Those are the kinds of things that Indiana fans want to see. Indiana fans are not expecting Indiana to blow out Michigan. They're not expecting maybe even for Indiana to win at this point, based on what we've seen. The expectation is play better. Play harder, fix some of the mistakes that we're seeing on a consistent basis, block somebody, tackle somebody, keep them away from making this ball game uninteresting, if you know what I mean. You don't need it right now. That's the expectation of Indiana fans, because look, Indiana fans have been putting up with bad football forever. I mean, and there's just no questioning that. And all they want to see is a competitive, tough, hard-nosed football team. And right now, we're not seeing that.
No, not at all. But it is going to be a big weekend on the Bloomington campus. Either way, Don, with Michigan coming in. But it's not just that; it's homecoming. But bigger than that, you've got Hoosier Hysteria. So there's just going to be a ton of people on campus this weekend, and there's plenty to be excited for at least part of them.
And Fox Big Noon Kickoff is coming to town this week.
Yep. Fox does their big noon kickoff and the noon game. Of course, it's a noon kickoff with Michigan on Saturday. So a lot of things going on in and around the Bloomington campus this weekend, Don.
Yep, there's no question about that. There'll be excitement. There'll be excitement going into the contest. No question about that. We hope there's excitement when we come out of the contest, at least from the standpoint of a little pride being able to be justified for a change. That's right now, I think all anybody can ask for is a really competitive effort on Indiana's part. If they would pull off an upset, I mean, we would all be ecstatic. And next week, we all be saying our mea culpas because we were so wrong. Well,
Yeah.
I would love that. I would love to be so wrong. But right now, I don't feel it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree 100%. The Hoosier Hysteria coming up this Friday. Do you have no responsibilities for that, I'm assuming, right?
Oh, I have none whatsoever.
And I'm sure it could not be you couldn't be any happier
Well,
about that.
my partner, Rhett
That's
Lewis.
right. That's
Rhett
right.
is actually going to be a co-host with an ESPN young lady.
Courtney Cronin, who is also an IU graduate.
Yep. She is an IU grad as well, and they are co-hosting Hoosier Hysteria on Friday night. That might get me excited just to see how they do.
Yep, looking forward to that. It was so funny though. I was chatting with Rhett about coming on for that, and he said that, and I asked him if he had a contact info for Courtney. He's like, "Who's that?" And he's like,
You may have exposed him. You may have exposed him.
I may not have gotten him the last name. I was just assuming that he's already been shoved all this information, but they've got, well, as I know, you all have so much each week that you can't get too far out. There's too much. So, but no, looking forward to it. It ought to be fun. It was a fun environment last year. So looking forward to what they're doing for the year 2 of the Mike Woodson era, but bringing in Isaiah Thomas last year was a very cool thing. Just wondering what they might do this year. Obviously, getting everyone out and excited and involved for the upcoming season.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting night, no question about that. And of course, it won't be just for the men; it'll be for the women as well, because the women's basketball team has made an impact on the country here in the last couple of years under Terry Moore. They have done a remarkable job. Terry's done a terrific job, her coaching staff, and obviously the players themselves. They put Indiana on the map for women's basketball, which is saying something.
Absolutely. Both teams ranked going into the season. Don, I cannot thank you enough. I hope you have a relaxing week of sorts before all the craziness erupts this weekend.
Yep, I didn't blow my nose on the show. I'm really excited.
We appreciate you, man. The great Don Fischer, the voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant, where you can find him and Coach Tom Allen each Wednesday at 7:05 for Inside Indiana Football. Don Fischer, back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
The sun is out. Don't forget to swap those spots, John Boy.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Wait a minute. I'm in the wrong damn.
G Herbo.
What's up, G Herbo?
Just felt like saying the word G Herbo.
Look, she's come in between the siding of
Luna?
my chair. That's Miss Luna.
There we go.
Come on. Why are you coming? There we go.
Indiana opens up as a 21-point underdog.
How about that? Whew, that's putting it politely.
Yeah,
Wait a
that's almost a
The
compliment.
over and under is only 56.
So let's see. If it's a 21-point win for Michigan, then that means they think Michigan's going to win 35-21, right? No, that wouldn't be it.
No.
I got you on this one.
Substantial number of points off of that 21 and put them
42 to 14. That seems reasonable. right?
Go ahead, Dustin. Go ahead.
38-17. 38-17 puts you at 21 for Michigan, and then 55 on that. You said 56 was the over-under?
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like 42-14 seems.
Why do you think? My question is, Nebraska scored 35 points against Indiana. You think Michigan's only going to score 38?
That's what I'm concerned of. I think that line's going to shift. If you could get 56 now, you might take the over on that.
Well, yeah.
What a great homecoming.
Surprising.
Why? What the hell were they thinking? How far in advance do they plan these?
Well,
it's I promise it's because of Hoosier
Hysteria. They wanted the same weekend of Hoosier Hysteria, so it doesn't even have anything to do with the opponents about Hoosier Hysteria. So
it would be that.
I got it.
Also,
good morning, Dustin.
Good morning, Jim.
D squared.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Monday here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, joined by Dustin Dopirak now from the Bloomington Herald Times. How are you, sir?
Doing good, Jim. How are you?
Just fine. Just enjoying the beautiful weather weekends. And that's about all there was to really do. But not a great weekend for the state of Indiana sports. The Colts are really disappointing. Indiana football has been disappointing. There's basketball around the corner. Purdue with a big upset win that I did not. The other Dustin Schutte picked. But it's fall, baby. It's fall in Indiana. So what more can you do? The colors are beautiful.
When the football's bad, that's just really how it goes. Usually,
that's exactly it. Just
when it gets real. I mean, usually you expect more from the Colts at this point. Usually, but not going that way this year, it doesn't seem.
Nope. There was if you're keeping score at home, somebody put up the Indiana is now two losses away from hitting 700. That's
be the first program ever, right? I believe to hit 700 losses.
Correct. Yeah, they've been running by themselves for a little while now.
I thought Kansas had taken over.
No, I don't think so. I'm not sure why. But no, I don't at any point in recent memory remember that Kansas had overtaken them. I mean, my presumption, and I could look it up, but I'm talking to you right now, so I won't, is that Kansas probably hasn't been playing football as long.
Well, Kansas is at 670. So
yeah. I figured they can't be far off.
And they're going to go undefeated and reach the college football playoff this year. So
right. I have them ranked this week. The Kansas people were mad at me last week.
You did?
I ranked them this week. Last week.
Oh, nice.
And they were mad at
me. They did end up pulling off getting the win over the weekend. I didn't see the final score. Mm-hmm. That was a big game. Big game for them. How about Kansas? Are you kidding me? Kansas has sucked, and they are. Man, they're kind of fun to watch.
They are fun to watch. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of them, but they do some fun stuff. They've got a really talented quarterback. I caught a little bit of the game day segment on Saturday that they did on them, and yeah, they got some dudes. So, it happens.
They got some dudes, all right.
The Big 12 is a place right now where you can. It's easier to get right than it is in the Big 10. Oklahoma's helping some people out by deciding to lose and decided to not be very good, apparently.
Holy crap. Yeah. How about that? I mean,
yeah, I don't even know. It's one of those, like, I was
10 after the first quarter, 41-17 at the half.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was wild. I mean, like, I was flipping around, all day Saturday just because we didn't go to Lincoln. So I definitely watched more college football than I have all season so far, because it was just, for various reasons, just plugging on the TV Saturday. And yeah, that was one of those ones. Like I was watching other stuff. I was watching a lot of Kentucky Ole Miss. And then you see the score come across. You're like, oh, they're down 14-0. Okay, well, they'll be okay. They'll get right. And then next thing you know, it's like, oh, it's 34-7, and you're like, whoa, okay, things done changed then apparently. So yeah, I don't know how it happened, but I ranked the heck out of TCU this week is all I know.
And probably happy
TCU
that you
is for real.
They are for real. I was going to say, you're probably glad you weren't in Happy Valley this weekend because
it looked miserable.
Lord, it did. I don't know that it could have rained any harder if it tried.
Yeah.
Like that was crazy. Ugly game, but I mean, I don't know if it was. It might have still been a little bit prettier than what we saw in Lincoln on Saturday. Indiana once again, they played better in the first half, I thought, but couldn't get anything going in the second half. I mean, what did you see from that game? I was concerned again. I mean, I feel like I'm a broken record. I feel like I talk about the secondary and the offensive line. So what did you see from that game on Saturday?
Yeah. Well, I mean, those things are bad. So I guess what's new? I mean, like, so those are givens, I think.
Right.
And we can, just rewind back to that at some point. But I mean, I think just the biggest thing was it tells you that they have decent playmakers beyond Cam Camper and DJ Matthews, but not really good ones. I mean, I think it kind of reminds you just like when they're like really good players can make you right when you're wrong or make you right when you're just okay. And when you have something that like when you have receivers that are just okay, like your margin for error is a lot shorter. I mean, you got to put the ball on a dime because like that receiver's just not running away from a D-back. Like that guy's going to be there. And so you have to put it in a place where only he can catch it. And that's hard. That window becomes smaller because he's not creating the same amount of separation. So when you have Cam Cameron, DJ Matthews, those guys create separation or they, Camper uses his body in such a way to create, where he's boxing somebody out and he puts himself in a position where you have, there's more of a catch radius. There's more of an area where you can put it where you're not going to have a problem. And I can think of just one particular pass where like Swinton had somebody just draped on him and Basilak's a touch off and the guy gets the D-back behind him gets a hand in. And it's not like Swinton ran a bad route or Basilak threw a terrible pass or anything like that. It's like just the margin for error is much smaller. Like you have to be a lot more precise to pull it off. And a drive has to be a lot more precise because it's like you're probably not getting a whole lot more than what you throw, than what you block for, than what the route is, et cetera. And I think that's kind of really where they were. And they had moments. I mean, their last two drives of the first half were terrific. I mean, they didn't have a good first half. They had two really good drives at the end of the first half. Like they didn't get inside the Nebraska 45 before that. And they didn't get inside much of it after that. I think that just for those two drives, you saw like that tempo work really, really well. And just guys making plays, really good play calls on that stretch. And I think Nebraska's defense was worn down at that point and really got worn down by the tempo. And they keep doing the tempo, but it's just smaller margin for error. You can't be off by much. You really got to be rolling for it all to work when you're throwing out the guys that you have. I mean, it's just, Anderson Kobe's okay. Javon Swinton's okay. Emory Simmons might be slightly better than okay. But that's your first wave of wide receivers when you've got Camper and Matthews out. And then after that, I don't even know who they put. I mean, I guess it was Holt Bennett, McCulley, and I don't even know who the slot guy was, to be totally honest with you. I think Holt Bennett had one catch and didn't see really anything from McCulley. I mean, I think he had a couple snaps in a quarterback, but I didn't see him do anything at wide receiver. So it's one of those deals where do they have a lot of guys that are okay, that are good enough that you could run out there? They do, but they really only have two that change the game for you. And I think that's just sort of where the offense was. And after that, they were kind of lost. And Josh Henderson can do some things for you, running back. Sean Sivers can do some things for you, running back. But they're not blowing you away, and they're not running too much better than the blocking. They're not making a whole lot there that isn't. And Jalen Lucas apparently can make a whole lot there that isn't, because he got the ball one time and went nuts for 34 yards. But, he's 5'9", $170. And so, he can try his butt off and do everything there is to do in the weight room. But but he's still 5'9", $170, and the guy that's coming off the edge is probably 265. So that's tough. Whatever, no matter what he does technically, as far as whether he's a good pass protector or he's not, he could be giving up 90 pounds to the other human. So that's why he doesn't play more. And so you got to be smart about where you get him the football. And when he gets it, he's terrific. But, he only has so much level of versatility there. So that's where they stand offensively. I mean, defensively, they just had a couple, just enough breakdowns. They're a good enough defense to win with a good offense. They're not a good enough defense to carry a bad offense.
Well, I think they should. You've got to work to find ways to get the ball into the hands of Jalen Lucas to where it does work, because with a limited offense, you don't have a choice, because your offense per se doesn't work. It's not working against the talent you're going against. Josh Henderson, another kid that they should have got the ball to more, I think, in the second half. Both of those guys in different ways, which I know you're not going to be able to all of a sudden be able to run the ball everywhere. Right. But if you have some semblance of success, all of a sudden that does open up other things, including the passing game, that it maybe gives Bez like a tick more time to think and make a little more accurate of a throw. I don't know. I'm not in there, but just from the looking standpoint,
it's just not easy to balance all of it. And I do think that when Henderson makes a play, everyone's like, well, Shivers, what's he even doing there? Shivers isn't that bad. I mean, Shivers, like if Henderson's better than Shivers, it's not by a lot. There's not a huge amount of gap between those two guys, I don't think. Maybe Henderson's the better guy, and maybe the kind of workload might need to be flipped, where it's Shivers who's getting maybe 2/3 and or Henderson's getting 2/3 and Shivers is getting 1/3. I don't know, but like I don't think there's a drastic difference between those two. I don't think Shivers is terrible. I mean, I feel like the fan base is starting to turn on Shivers, and I don't know if that's necessarily fair. And then Lucas does something that's like, why is Shivers even out there? Lucas should get all the carries, and you're like, okay, everybody take a breath now. But all the same, I mean, like I get why it's not easy to figure out. Okay, well, who do you want here and who do you want there? Each of them give you something. But it's like, okay, well, this play worked. So if you did that a whole lot, then it'd be great. I think, Bell's got to ask himself about his first and second down play calls, because you're getting him third down a lot. And so, what's getting you there better? It frequently seems like they take a shot on first down. They find themselves in 2nd and 10. They got to get something. So they run the football and they only get maybe 2 or 3, and then they're facing 3rd and 7. And okay, now you got to make a play. And that's, I think, too frequently the case. They're scrambling for answers offensively in general. I don't know that it's easy to come up with them, especially when it comes to running back. I don't think you could flip one switch and everything's different or whatever. I just think the biggest thing was Camper and Matthews can make you right when you're wrong, and I don't know if they have anybody else that really can on a consistent basis.
What can Tom Allen say today? Because the defense has really let Indiana down, and he's taking that back over. The offense just not getting it done is all you can say. Offensive line been a problem for 2 years. It's not like this just happened. So these questions are just going to build. And I know he's going to want to take it one game at a time, but it doesn't work that way in the real world, because there's an aggregate behind you that is building up. Sure. The losses start compiling, and it just you've got to recognize, sometimes things that you don't want to have to. And I don't know that he's there yet, but
no, I mean, I don't. Well, there's a couple things to this. Recognize it, when we're talking about recognize things that you don't want to have to. I mean, he's not firing Darren Hiller today.
No, absolutely not.
If he does,
and I'm not suggesting that, because that would put them in a worse position.
Yeah, if he does, he'll shock the living daylights out of him.
Oh, there we go.
That would be the
jump in.
What's that? Yeah.
At this point, I mean, you're not going to hire anybody, and I don't think that may be the right move. I guess I don't know, but it cannot get worse. There's zero chance. I could coach the offensive line. It's not going to get worse. They're terrible. It's the worst in the Big Ten by a large margin. I'm just saying, I don't think you have anything to lose if you do make a change right there, because it is that bad. Pull up one of your analysts. For 2 years, it's been awful.
But what does that do to a unit? If
it's not going to get worse.
I know that.
I know possibly get worse.
I don't mean, I meant mentally.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, that's one of those that, like, it just depends on the machinations of the place. And I just don't think, like, it's hard to kind of go against so much of what you are when you're Tom Allen. And so it's like you've created, like, you have made it clear, like, your entire method of being is that you're just not a cutthroat guy. But like, yeah, like, and you, I think it was just interesting talking to him, this off season. I mean, I think Jim, both of us got, he gave, kind of exclusive one-on-ones to everybody. So, I mean, you probably touched on a lot of the same topics that we did. So I asked him about Sheridan and what that was like and everything like that. And just one thing he said was, they tell you, I've had, other coaches tell me, like, you got to create a buffer between yourself and your assistants, so it's easier for you to make these kind of moves when you have to. And he says, and that's just not me. I just can't do that. And I think he's being sincere. I mean, like, I just don't think he's the type of guy that can say, okay, like, I'm the CEO and I'm going to be up in the ivory tower and all of you guys are my underlings and that's the way it is. And we don't hang out and we're not friends. You're my employees and your job is to make sure I don't get fired. And if you screw up, I'm going to fire you. That's kind of how it's going to be. I can't see him being that type of guy. And if you get rid of somebody mid-year, I just think it kind of goes against what you have put yourself out to be to your assistants. They have an expectation of who you are and how you're going to operate. And, like, this goes against that.
Sure.
So, I just can't see him pulling the trigger. I can't see him going through that. And I think that can create, when you suddenly change like that, when you operate that much differently than you ever have, that I think is an issue because it makes it weird for people to work with you all of a sudden, both players and coaches, because, your players have an expectation, your coaches have an expectation. Now, obviously, he has to set, I think firing Sheridan at least did set the standard that there is enough that can go wrong that I'll fire you in an off season. Like, I can't carry you forever. So I think now, if he keeps him for next year, what happens to him for that is, his own doing, basically. And I think Allen gets that. I mean, I think it says something for Allen. I don't know if he was forced to do this or not, but the fact that he took a pay cut basically to get Nick, to fire Nick Sheridan, saying, like, okay, like, this is on me on some level, again, tells you something about the guy. I mean, is he going to, take another pay cut to fire Darren Hiller? I don't know. But that is part of the Tom Allen thing. And if you think that's too much, I get it. And it's over the top or ridiculous, I get it. But that is Tom Allen. That's not fake. And I think that's important to factor in on decisions he makes there.
Yeah, who would have thought Nebraska leading? That's crazy.
Everybody,
but the Big Ten West,
like 5 teams are in first place in the Big Ten West.
I was going to say, but then the Big Ten West is like, you got Illinois up there, who Indiana beat. Yeah. So it's a crazy, it's a crazy, wild world we live in. Up next, what can they do to it's a big weekend coming up, first of all, with homecoming, Michigan coming in, Hoosier Hysteria coming up. Just a lot of faces in town. Big time for recruiting for basketball. We haven't talked about that yet, but there's a lot of names that are going to be in for this. People are excited. This may be the highest level of excitement, Dustin, for basketball, even obviously bigger than last year. And obviously before that, it had been several years when there was truly excitement there, but there is going to be a very, very high level of excitement for this Hoosier Hysteria this weekend, as this team is one of those picked by a lot of us to contend for the Big Ten title.
Yeah, agreed. And I got a lot more to say to that, but I think John's going to kill you if you don't go to advertisement now.
Oh, break. All right. We got to take a break. I gotta. Now the guests are becoming better producers, not than John, but than me. We've got to take a quick break. Don't forget, if you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, our good friend Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty, reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. If you're in the Louisville, Southern Indiana, Floyd, Clark, Harrison County areas, reach out to Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. Have served that area for 3 decades. Barbara at BarbaraPop.com or Matt Lincoln, Matt at BarbaraPop.com. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
I usually send Jim a text saying, "Hey, before you switch topics, go
I
break."
forget he's got to get out.
I don't think I did that today.
Well, and I forget that he's got to get out to get on the road too.
Yeah. So we can make it quick.
Yeah, every Hoosier Hysteria conversation's been the same the past, week anyway. Because what else is there anymore? I mean, you're just waiting for it to happen.
Pretty much.
Don't say that. We have 7 more weeks of football.
Yeah. No.
You'll at least have something else to talk
about. It's rough that they got it. It's cool that they have it on homecoming weekend. It's rough that they play Michigan.
Yeah.
It's just I cannot. There is. I mean, seriously, they're out of, especially because the way Michigan plays. There's a 0% chance. Zero. There's just no. I don't know that I've seen Indiana. Let me take that back. This is on the short list of most hopeless Indiana football games.
That
is right. I mean,
yes.
The only thing that I can think of, and like I said, it depends on how far ahead they made and advanced the decision.
That's only until November 12th.
Here's
12th. Ohio State.
Ohio
yeah,
State.
I mean,
but I think you're talking about in terms of homecoming opponents, right?
No, I'm not talking about in terms of homecoming opponents. What am I trying to say here? I mean, yeah, Ohio State's probably the better team, but I could see the way Michigan's playing right now, especially the way they can run the ball, it's almost it's impossible to imagine it going sideways for them.
Because
what's the deal? Have they said what's wrong with Cam Camper and DJ Matthews, or is that still?
Camper's sick. Camper was sick. I think because Matthews was sick and McCullough was sick, so it suggests to me that there was something running through the place.
Okay.
I mean, it's and apparently it's not COVID. So, unless they're lying about that, but I don't lie about that anymore. Or Anthony Fauci comes to your door and knocks and says, "What the hell are you doing?" I don't think that. They must have had something running through, because they said, Walt Bell mentioned something about DJ. He was just really not feeling good, and then they said McCullough wasn't practicing last week, and they were being odd about it, but okay, because it's illness, he was sick,
10 seconds.
So I don't know what it was. I don't know if they've had a flu going through or what, but based on the way it's been described, it has been not.
Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio commentary here on this Monday from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Make sure you get out there. Located right next door to Southern Stone on Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington, offering an extensive selection of wines with a sommelier there to help you with your selections. Dustin Dopirak with the Bloomington Herald Times with us now, as is Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com, as always. Hoosier Hysteria, lots of excitement coming up this weekend for the basketball fans, men and women, both teams coming in with high expectations. Is it a first that both teams are going to be ranked as we enter the season?
Almost definitely is.
It has to be, yeah. So there's a first for Indiana, both the men and women's teams, which is ironic that Indiana is just now getting that one ticked off. Although
it took a while to get the women's program right, and Terry Morin's done it.
and it's there.
We can go around in circles. I mean, I don't know what the holdup was exactly. They had some good moments in the AIAW era, I believe. Before it was an NCAA sport, before I guess Title IX really took effect, but basically the NCAA sort of took on women's sports. But yeah, no, it just took a while for Indiana women's basketball to get right. And, there was a period where it was starting to get right, where the men's team wasn't in great shape. And, well, it really hasn't basically until now. So now the women's team's, has sort of gotten right. And now the men's team's gotten right. And so it's just for once you finally have those things, coming together at the same time. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a cool, I think it has the potential to be a really cool event, especially because it is homecoming weekend, even though Indiana did not get blessed with its homecoming opponent with Michigan coming in. But basically just puts a lot together for a pretty fun weekend. And obviously, works a lot really for both programs when it comes to recruiting.
Looking for, there's going to be several in attendance there as well. And it's going to be a great weekend for IU to show that off. Derek Queen was, he's not going to be here, but I saw that he's up to like number 30 in the Rivals Top 150 rankings. That's just a two-way battle between Indiana and Maryland, I believe. So, but several faces will be there. A lot of the local kids. Jalen Harrison, Tyler
Trent Sisley, yep.
Trent Sisley. So a lot of those guys. So it ought to be a fun time. And then we have to, not last year, they brought in Isaiah Thomas. So I was looking forward to seeing what are the new surprises for this season. Seeing the coaches come out in the candy stripes was cool last year. Mike Woodson really embracing that role. And so it looking forward to seeing how things get ramped up this year.
No, for sure. Shouts to MC Courtney Cronin. She was at IUS TV, basically, I want to say about like 09 to 12, somewhere in that range. So, good friend of ours going way back to then. So it's been awesome to see what she's gotten into since at ESPN. They got her on Around the Horn now. She's like one of their new superstars. So she's coming back.
Oh, is she on there?
To IU. So that's going to be cool. So it's her and Rhett Lewis are going to be the two MCs. So yeah, I mean, she's basically like her main gig is, I guess, Bears reporter, with their NFL people. But they've started to kind of really put her on kind of the star track, and that's been really cool to see as somebody we really got to know. I really got to know, and all of us really got to know. But she was, so that's gonna be really cool to see her, and I thought that was a really cool announcement to see them bringing back, just an IU grad. Obviously, they did it with Sage Steele a couple of years ago, and she's kind of on that track too. So that's really cool.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We talked about a little bit about that with Don Fischer earlier. Rhett Lewis coming back as well. So that will be fun to have MC. I'm trying to remember what all they did in the procedure, the MC. It sounds like they're ramping up those responsibilities, I'm going to imagine, with having two people.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's going to be a microphone. They'll talk something. I mean, I don't know,
There's going to be a microphone.
Much action.
I love that description.
Little microphone work as possible. I don't think, I wasn't there for Sage. I don't think. I'm trying to remember when they did that, exactly when she was involved. Tebow tells us that Harrelson will not be at Hysteria because he got invited to Team USA camp. So that, I mean, it's a slight loss for IU, I guess, but
they can forget about Floyd Badunga, as can any other school not named Cincinnati.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Breaking news.
It's just my flat out prediction for that. It's not like that's been
fair.
Well, I mean, things always change. Things change.
They do.
I never it probably wasn't a year ago, but Liam McNeely, boy, Indiana had no chance at him until he went to Montverde, and all of a sudden, I'm like, hold up. Now he's getting out away from the Texas stuff all the time. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, that changes the game. And it did. We'll see how that ends up.
But it's high school kids. And so you might think you know exactly what's going on, but you don't always, because they're 17 and 18. And
there's always handlers, people involved. love the term handlers.
We really shouldn't use it. It's a bad use. It's a bad word.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, not good.
I mean,
but
they all got people. I mean, it's different with every kid. I mean, sometimes somebody looks like they're in a position that they're pulling the strings, and sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not. And so you don't know who's doing the right thing in those situations, who's not. I mean, it's just there's a lot that can be around a high school kid. Some of it can be really positive, and sometimes I think you end up, you see people in certain positions and you presume that they are shady, and sometimes they're shady and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they do have the kid's best interest. It requires an infrastructure, when you get to be at a certain level, and advisors, people to make sure they're going to the right places, doing the right things, and keeping all this organized and keeping all of it together and making sure you're handling your recruitment the right way. So that requires some people to be involved, and sometimes those people have the best intentions and sometimes they don't. So, it is an interesting world, basketball recruiting in particular, because there's just fewer of them.
What happened with Paul Christ? I'm just that's a coaching find that I'm like, am I missing something, Dustin? What?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they started 0-2. I don't know what's going wrong over there.
He won like 10 games a year
Right.
He's won a lot of games there. What was 67-27, I think, is his record there?
Fun fact, he almost had the exact same record as when Bo Pelini was fired at Nebraska.
How's that go?
Keep that in mind.
He was also one win short of surpassing or tying Brett Bielema's record at Wisconsin.
Jeez. Well, yeah.
Brett Bielema owns the record.
Brett Bielema I think he's second on that list. I could be wrong. I think, and then
is that for winning percentage? Because I presume Barry has the most wins.
I think Barry has the most wins, but no, I think Brett Bielema has second most at 68, and I think Chris had 67 or whatever the total was.
Right. Like, on some level, I don't get it. I'm interested in what they're seeing, but I do think that I do think part of it is getting Jim Leonard in that job, and I think they want Jim Leonard to have that job.
He has it now.
He's the interim, but most of the time the interim is like you're holding the place warm until we can throw a just boatload of money at people. They might want Jim Leonard to be the guy.
This could be an interim. I don't disagree with that. This could be his audition because I think there's also going to be, if it doesn't work out well with Jim Leonard, there might be a push for Lance Leipold because he coached at Wisconsin Whitewater forever. So you have to think that there would be at least some level of interest on his part there. So I think Wisconsin might have some options.
Yeah, but I'd be surprised if Leonard's not the guy.
I agree.
He's performed pretty well. I mean, I think he had opportunities to go after other jobs previously. I'd be surprised if he's not the guy. That seems to make sense because if you're it is the thing that keeps you from being like, what on God's green earth are you doing?
Right.
I think that's the thing that So, but I got a piece. I'll see you guys.
Appreciate you. Dustin Dopirak from Bloomington Herald joining us here as always before heading to the Tom Allen press conference. Yeah, I'm still that firing is a little stunning to me, Wisconsin, that they didn't wait till the end of the season on this one. I know the season's not going well, but damn. I mean, what have you done for me lately? Unless there's other things going on.
No kidding.
There.
See, there's some conspiracy theory behind this, in the fact that the timing, the fact that he won 3 Big Ten West titles, they haven't played well in big games recently. It does make me wonder if there's more to the story than just wins and losses. He took a smaller buyout. His buyout was $16.5 million, and Chris McIntosh said yesterday it is significantly less that we are parting ways with. So that tells me that's one of two things. Either A, they have reason to fire him, and they're just not going to let that go public, assuming he takes the lesser buyout. Or two, Paul Christ might just be I'm done with it and I'm ready to move on? And can we come to some sort of agreement where I get a lesser buyout? You guys give Jim Leonard this interim tag. I don't know what the answer is. It's incredibly interesting. I think there's more to the story. But I think there's also, I do think that the way that college football has changed with NIL, with the transfer portal, I wonder if coaches are getting to a point where they're like, I'm done with it. And I wonder also if that, I'm not saying that happened in this case, but I do wonder about that.
Well, it was probably hard enough for a program like Wisconsin that didn't cheat. They did things pretty much the right way. They went out and recruited. And now you have a program like Kansas, who has sucked forever. And now they're inside the top 25. They're inside the top 20, as a matter of fact, this week. Number 19, they'll be playing against number 17, TCU. A second consecutive TV game against a ranked opponent and looking good. So getting football programs elevated is the most difficult thing probably in sports, or it has been, because of the mass amount of people. You've got two different offense and defense, different sides, different numbers, different special teams, specialty players, this, that, the other thing. It's just a hard, it's like turning the Titanic rather than a fishing boat. It takes a while to get that thing turned around. But all of a sudden you can win that quickly. That sounds almost impossible, but I agree. It's when you can take a gigantic buyout and say, you know what, I'm going to bust my head against this wall. I can certainly see that.
Right. And one of the things I always look at in terms of, is a coach done with it, is recruiting. And while Wisconsin's recruiting hasn't been bad, terrible, it took a drop off in 2022. You look at Nebraska, their recruiting took a major drop off in 2022. To me, that's always when tends to be personality is going to be able to recruit no matter what, right? Like if you're a top 30 recruiter, that you're probably going to be a consistent top 30 recruiter, whether your team is 6-6 or 10-2. You might get the occasional year, but Wisconsin's always been very consistent. So nothing changed in that regard. And then, you look at Nebraska. Scott Frost always brought in top 25 classes. His last year, they were awful. That recruiting class was awful. So to me, there's always this idea of, how can you tell a coach mails it in? Look at Dan Mullen at Florida last year. His recruiting class, everybody in Gainesville was complaining about it. When a coach is like, I don't know what else to do here, you see it in recruiting. And those are three examples. And so that's, again, why I say I don't know that Paul Chryst was ready to call it quits, but it also makes me wonder, he might have been ready to step away and just said, I can't beat Ohio State, Michigan. I've done what I've done here. It's time for us to part ways. I don't know what the answer is. It was just bizarre after a 2-3 start. Everything he's accomplished at Wisconsin, for them to cut ties pretty quickly. I thought he would at least make it until midway next year. There's no doubt his seat was getting warm, but to let go of him, could be a bad decision.
Yep. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Metalworks Brewing Company, located just off the square in Bloomington. When you're in town, catty corner to Cabello, former Function Brewery location on 6th Street. Hey, we got lots more coming up. Be back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Hey, this is John.
I mean, I would fire Darren Hiller right now.
I'm not going to get into it because we'll talk plenty of that kind of stuff on the podcast, but
he's not.
I think
the other thing is he's not recruiting, not recruiting guys that are good enough to be Big Ten offensive linemen. So what are you losing there? Nothing.
If Tom Allen ends up not working out, and I'm not going to jump on that just yet, but if he doesn't, one of the first major mistakes I think not the, I don't want to say first because you could point at anything, but at least in recent memory was when you let go of Sheridan, not also letting go of Hiller. That could be one of the, because now it's exactly what Dustin Dopirak said. He's not going to do a midseason. That's not who Tom Allen is.
Yeah, I agree. But look, PJ Fleck did it with Rob Smith in 2018 after they gave up 55 points to a bad Illinois team. Minnesota won 3 of their last 4 games. I'm not saying that that's going to happen if you make a change on the offensive line, but I think it at least gives you some hope because somebody else is going to be able to recruit better, develop. Like we have enough of sample size that's not working. So I don't.
Like there could be so many kids who are considering Indiana who their one thing that they're just thinking is, if you get rid of Hiller, maybe I'll take a second look at you kind of thing.
Well, that could be. That very well could be.
Well, just the recruiting.
But I mean,
of it, like you were saying.
But I mean, he's no, right. But I'm saying he's not. He's a problem in recruiting because he's not getting the guys you need to be Big Ten offensive linemen. So if you get somebody else in there, I agree with you. I think we're saying the same thing.
Is doing flips, looking at what TCU's done and what Indiana's doing. I can't believe College Game Day is TCU at Kansas. I mean, what? I'm glad that that's the way that it is, but I can't believe that that's where we're at right now. Indiana can't join in on the fun, but can't have everything nice, can we? All right, here we go.
Clubs on the Point offers a variety of food and beverage packages for on and off-site catering for the greater Bloomington area. To book your next tea time or reserve your next dining or catering experience, call 812-824-4040 or visit eaglepoint.com. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington, an exceptional golf and dining experience.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. How's everybody doing on this Monday? It's going to be beautiful out there. Some of the best weather we have had all year, man, over the last week. Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com with me. Jim Coyle here. Brought to you by our good friends at Courtroom Sports Grill, where I was over the weekend. Stop by there. Great place. The food was awesome. I haven't been there for a little while. There's also a place, Pub 15 there in Bedford. Just gorgeous. Also part of the Wow Club. Make sure you go there and stop by if you're down in that area. It's a great place to catch a game, meet friends. Michael hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline says 5 Power 5 schools have committed to over $600 million to buy out coaches.
60 million.
What would I say? 600?
Yeah. That's quite a difference. It might as well be 600 million.
Tana's asking, why is Fox Game Day doing IU Michigan? It's either a scripted upset or a bloodbath. Well, I'll go with the bloodbath.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
I'd like to go back to what I'm wondering when IU schedules homecoming.
How much? Yeah, I think this was about the Hoosier hysteria.
It probably was
that way.
It probably was, but at the same time, do you think there's a level of, well, nobody really expects us to beat Michigan, but if we lose to Rutgers or Maryland on homecoming, it's a whole lot worse? Do you think there's that? Like, that's a legit question I have.
That is, and it's there's truth to it. But I mean, I just don't know how much. I don't know how much.
Maybe the opponent doesn't matter anymore. It used to.
I don't know how much they have in controlling that. I mean, that's just so much stuff that's being scheduled, basketball, football. It's just there's a lot going on. Yeah, it's. I don't know where they're going to get the wins. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's just there's not. a lot positive to talk about at the moment. The changes that we've said that they need to be, that they've said that they need, just haven't come. So I'm like, Sean says that Hiller is a very tricky situation. While Allen wants to support his staff, it also shows a lack of leadership, allowing someone to struggle 2 straight seasons as a quarterback recruit. Would you consider IU? There's a reason why Josh Hoover's not here. I heard you mention him in the break. John did. I sent him a tweet or a text over the weekend, just congratulating him on how everything's going. And he looked at things and said, you know what, maybe that's not the place for me.
Right. And I agree with this. It shows a lack of leadership. And it's not, Sean, it's not just the fact that it's struggling. It's the fact that it's as bad as I've ever seen an offensive line look. I mean, you're talking about Rutgers, Kansas levels bad. And this was a team that was supposed to rebound, that was supposed to be better. They have experience, but that just goes to show that sometimes experience doesn't always translate to improvement. And that's a problem on your coaching staff, because if you can't develop experienced guys, then you have no chance. And so that's why I say Tom Allen may not let go of Hiller during the season, but you've got to do something, because it is not just like they're struggling and they can't get over the hump against Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State. You know, it's not like they're not competitive. They're not competitive against Nebraska, and they have the worst defense in every category statistically in the Big Ten. They were not competitive against Cincinnati. They were not competitive against Idaho. All those things are glaring issues. So you've got to make a change. And whether it's week 6 or whether it's at the end of the season, it's time. And I just don't think that making a change at this point in the season is going to affect anything that much, because of the fact that I don't think it could get any worse.
I'm looking at over the weekend, some fun bets. A lot of the biggest bets were kicker prop bets.
Kicker prop bets?
Yeah. Hundreds of like-minded NFL bets hit multiple sports books Sunday night. Caesars, BetMGM reported taking around 500 bets on the over to under of field goals made by the Raiders kicker Daniel Carlson against Denver at 1.5. All of the bets were on the over, around even money. The largest of the bets, Caesars, was 520. No other kick propped more than 26. No other kicker attracted more than 26. So he got double the amount.
Wow.
I didn't even see. I don't know where I don't even look for all that stuff. That's just gets into craziness for me. I have a hard enough time. My 17-team parlay did not hit, FYI.
That's unfortunate.
It ended early as Washington was shellacked by UCLA, and Michael Penix and Kalen DeBoer. Did they get beat pretty bad? That was
it was 40. It was pretty bad early. I actually fell asleep because the game didn't kick off till 10:30. But I think the final score was like 40-32 or something. Like, it was a 1-possession game, but I don't know if they scored a couple late touchdowns or how that went out. I know early on it did not look pretty, which makes me think UCLA might be the real deal.
Well, they've certainly had a good season up to this point. Yeah, I lost on the under too, on the Illinois-Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. What was the over-under in that?
It was 43.5.
Oh, so it hit 44. That was right on the money.
I did hit Washington State, Maryland, and Oklahoma State. That was nice. But the one that, oh boy, I hit another little 3-leg, didn't hit it, missed it by. Somehow, I must have bet this one early. I took the over in the Indiana-Nebraska game, and it cost me a lot.
That seemed like a lot to me too.
But, oh well, still up for the weekend.
Hey, that's a positive.
Hit a 3-leg parlay, still up. Still up, baby. Don't forget Go Team. Another part of the Wow Club for those on the go. Protein infused. Get plenty of that at goteambites.com or even at BB's. So what's your big games coming up this week? When we got Major League Baseball playoff race, or the playoffs about to hit. The races are about over.
Well, it's pretty much the Braves' magic number is 1. So, and they play Miami. So they just need one win or a Mets loss, and they have locked up the division. So I think that's the only race in question, because they got that sweep. If the Braves would have won just 2, it would have made things a lot more interesting because the Mets would have had the tiebreaker. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that turns out. But
the Padres are not in yet either, are they?
Oh, the wild card race might be interesting. I have not paid attention to that.
The Phillies are 86 and 73, and the Padres are 87 and 72. So you got a 1-game difference there. 1, 2, 3, but they're getting in regardless.
Are they?
1, 2, yeah, because the Brewers can't catch them. Can't catch them. How about the Mets? You could be the Mets and win 100 games this year and not win the division.
That's too bad, isn't it?
I couldn't care less.
But poor Kevin.
How about this? The Mets could win 100 games, not win the division, and the Yankees not win 100 games.
The Yankees they didn't hit 100 wins? They haven't?
Nope, they're at 97.
Wow, they may not hit 100 then. That's insane.
They're at 97. That surprised me when I looked at that.
Yeah, I would have thought that they were, and I don't follow the I follow
more
the
they
races
went through
than I do
they were
records.
losing forever, man. They couldn't win a game there for a minute.
After the All-Star break, they really struggled.
The Reds are not in last place. Well, that's not true. They're tied. They're tied with the Pirates. So now it's a race to see who doesn't finish in the bottom, because, man, it didn't seem like it was that long ago. The Cubs, the Pirates, and the Reds were all just swapping positions.
Right.
And the Cubs have 13 more wins than both of those two teams.
Wow. I mean, Lance Leipold getting some mention for Nebraska job. Yeah, he'll get mentions for a lot of jobs. Auburn's
how much?
Too, I'm guessing.
Good question. We talked about this not too long ago, but how much of a decline in player performance after Dr. Matt Rea and David Ballou were hired away by Alabama?
Yep, that's a great question.
That was part of when Tom Allen first got here, and they were really into that. I mean, it has to make a difference. There's a reason Alabama hired them,
right?
So,
Pete
says you like a bet here and there. What's the over and under that Matt Taylor shows up this week? That's a good one.
Well, there's that, and also they have Thursday night football this week, so I don't know how much that impacts the schedule.
Yeah,
but
who they playing this week?
They play the Broncos, so a pillow fight might break out at Lucas Oil Stadium, wherever. I don't even know where the game's being played, to be quite honest with you. I mean, those two offenses are not good, so there's that.
A little surprising for the Colts, man. What's a lot surprising for the Colts? Matt Ryan brought in and thought things were going to be different. Veteran, although he's on the backside. Just reminds me of Moneyball when Brad Pitt tells David Justice, I'm not paying you for the player you used to be. I'm playing you for the player that you are today.
Right. Yep. Well, I mean, poor offensive line play seems to be a theme in Indiana because they did not look good. They don't have really any good wide receivers outside of Michael Pittman. Or I shouldn't say that, but they're not on the same page with Matt Ryan, not yet. And they still have had chances to win football games. They had a chance to beat Houston, and they had a chance to beat Tennessee because Tennessee, for whatever reason, is a completely different team in the second half. I don't know what happens to them, but they're awful in the second half. They very well could be, as bad as they've played, they could very well be 3-1. But you are what your record says you are. And 1-2-1 is not the kind of start the Colts had hoped for after the way last season ended.
Hey, I hope everyone's having a great day. Make sure you hit the subscribe and like button if you happen to be listening on Facebook or on YouTube. We appreciate that. It's great for us. Yeah, it's going to be a big week. Like I said, big weekend coming up in Bloomington. I know that you've got homecoming, and it's not great to look forward to playing a team like Michigan, but it's just going to be a fun weekend regardless. You're going to have lots of buzz going around, and of course, Hoosier Hysteria happening. How many people are going to Hoosier Hysteria? There's a question for you. Who's coming up to see the talent? That's going to be a fun deal. So, just want to get it. There could be back close to filling up, not selling out. It's free, but to filling up for that, which that's hard to get to fill Assembly Hall for something like that. But man, they get close.
Yeah,
they certainly get close. And it's an opportunity for a lot of people who don't always have the opportunity to see Indiana basketball, to go to a Simon Scott Assembly Hall, to participate in that stuff. So great opportunity for those that don't have tickets. I'm sure there's going to be a lot for those of you standing in line. I know that there's probably going to be some fun things happening from Endeavor Hospitality and the Wild Club. We're working on all that might be. And then, of course, the man himself, Dustin Schutte's coming in. I keep forgetting that. When do you arrive? Has that been solidified yet?
It has not been solidified yet. Arrival time has not been solidified yet.
Da-da-da, 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 da-da-da.
I got my own theme music.
That's Elvis, man. That's man. You know, they'd always play that. You go back and watch one of his old concerts. And a friend of mine told me an interesting point yesterday. Now, Elvis's last concert ever was at Market Square Arena. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Did you know where his second to last concert was?
I don't.
The auditorium on the IU campus at Bloomington.
Was it really?
I was like, I've got to look this up, but that's what I was told yesterday.
Well, I used to work at the Ivy Tech in downtown Indianapolis, which is right off of Meridian Street. And
that's not what this says.
They own his
Rapid City, but
they own that it was an old hotel, and Ivy Tech owns that building, or at least they used to, and that's where he stayed. And so you could go in and see you used to be able to go in and see where Elvis stayed before he performed his final concert. And so that was always something that I thought was really cool as well.
Where was it that he stayed?
I don't know the name of the hotel, but I know Ivy Tech now owns it.
See, this is why you've got to confirm things. Elvis appeared in concert at IU on June 27th, 1974, and May 27th, 1976. The story that his second to last concert before his death in 1977 was here at IU is not true.
Wow. Okay.
So there you
How
go.
about that?
So I'm going to have to take issue with the person who gave me that information and tell that it's not true. He did not appear at IU as his second to last concert, but his last concert was at Market Square in Indianapolis.
There you go.
His second to last was in Rapid City, South Dakota.
That's quite a bit of ways from Bloomington.
That's quite a bit of ways from
a lot of places.
Elvis. Oh, wait a minute. That's recording TV concerts. Yeah.
This is
Just
great radio.
that. Well, I know, but I got confused reading, and I that's why you got to jump in and.
I have no idea.
There you go. Yeah, the Marriott. It is. It was a rough weekend.
There we go.
I watched.
It wasn't for me, baby. I also said this in the break. I made a whiskey pie, and it's just pecan pie with a splash.
We're going to talk about that when we come back. Whiskey pie.
Okay.
Yeah, that just doesn't sound good. There was another conversation I was having the other day. What are the worst combinations of? He had sat down to have breakfast, and some lady just had ordered biscuits and gravy and poured ketchup on it, and he said that he had to walk out. It was it. But
God.
And I said, well, I've heard worse. And he's like what? But we'll see. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by GoTee and a part of the Wow Endeavor Hospitality Group. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting, I'm thinking I had a Southern Indiana Rehab Associates. I thought I had an MRI today. Make sure that's the right one. Nope. Sierra. Damn it. Sierra Bloomington. It's not on my calendar, man. Should have been on my calendar. With Dustin's not even there to have a conversations.
I think he went to get coffee or something, maybe.
Worked with a guy, put hot sauce. Huh? Ooh.
Ketchup on biscuits and gravy? My gosh.
Oh, Jesus.
Everybody has their weird
talk to someone.
Condiment tendencies, though. Like me,
God,
I put nothing on anything. I don't even put syrup on waffles or pancakes.
Well, that's... Dude. Damn it. Man.
1 minute, Jim. And then you can call about your MRI later.
Yeah. Well, it's like right after the thing is the thing.
Oh, really?
I'm just trying to confirm if it's right after the show or after the press conference. I'm like, damn it. I may skip the press conference today, but really can't. I shouldn't.
Are any of your representatives going, though? Like your
Oh, yeah.
All right, 30 seconds. Hey, this is John, the producer with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Monday here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway. Jim Coyle with you. As always, Dustin Schutte as well from Outsider.com. Brought to you by our good friends at Cabello. Get the taste and traditions of Southern Italy right here in Southern Indiana. Located in the former Grazie location on the square in Bloomington. stop by and have some incredible fare today. Looking in the Hoosier.com, there's a piece from Russ Wood, a Rivals contributor, in regards to Mr. Derek Queen at 6'8". Looks like he's lost about 30 pounds over the last year, and has helped him step up his already impressive game. Very skilled big man. Is another from Montverde Academy, of course, and Indiana. And it's a two-way battle between Indiana and Maryland. And Dustin was talking about Derek Queen, he's lost like 30 pounds over the last year from Montverde Academy former teammates with Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Reynaud. Will be teammates with Liam McNeely. But man, they've got him slimmed down, looking good. So be interesting to see how his year goes.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Indiana casting a wide net. You got to start winning some of these battles. And I did think, too, it's interesting. We talked with Alec about this on Friday, I believe it was. Well, some of the way that Indiana kind of separates who they want to have at Hoosier Hysteria and who they want to have a more kind of intimate, personal type of recruiting visit on campus, because not every kid's the same. And while Hoosier Hysteria appeals to a large majority and a wide recruiting base, there's also kids that just they may not want to deal with some of that stuff and want more one-on-one stuff, more personal questions, and that sort of thing. So it's always interesting to me to see how they differentiate those. Both things can work, but we've talked about. I'm not concerned about recruiting, but they do need to start hitting on some of these, especially since they're casting such a wide net and targeting so many top prospects.
Yeah, I think that will begin to happen. It's just into their second year, and with all the changes that have happened, obviously, that was a lot of adapting to do for Mike Woodson, adapting to the college game, adapting to the recruiting scene, adapting to the transfer portal, adapting to name, image, likeness, all hitting at the same time. Boom, 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 boom. And with that said, still did a very good job, and staff doing a very good job on the recruiting trail, especially with the kids that they're building up for the next few years, the Jalen Harrelsons, Trent Sisleys, and those guys. But yeah, I agree with you. They've got to hit on these guys now. And actually Maryland has been kind of a thorn in their side because they've gotten two of the guys that they are after, but those guys were from that area. I mean, you pick your battles, but Indiana Indiana just has to win. Once they start winning,
right?
Again, that takes care of a lot. More people want to be there. You have to turn people away.
Yeah,
you're like, hey, I'm sorry, we don't have space. Yeah. So it's a dynamic that is in the process of changing for Indiana, but it is changing. And seeing events though, where those guys are getting to see events like Hoosier Hysteria, it gives them a great taste of what it's like there. But that's only a part of it. They still want to win. You got to win,
right?
And Indiana has to win. They haven't won anything yet, so let's don't put the cart before the horse. A good year is expected. Got to go out and do it.
You got the catchphrase or the analogy or whatever it's called right that time.
Yeah, don't trick me, man. Don't trip me up.
Personal growth.
Don't trip me up. Thinking about it, but yeah. So that should be fun to see what. There's not going to do a lot at Hoosier Hysteria. It's there'll be some, the 3-point contest and things like that. I can't remember, they do a dunk contest, but just seeing the guys, seeing all what is going to be done. It's always a special thing, but it's fun. And it just kicks off the season, man. And again, a great weekend. I haven't looked at the weather. What is the weather going to be like?
No idea.
Well, I know that. I know you would know, but
well, I can check on my weather app, but it sucks.
I can tell you right now, Friday is going to be all week, beautiful, 72, 72, 75, 77 Thursday. Friday, when festivities start. Whew. High of 59.
Whew,
low of 36.
Oh, God.
Low of 36. Saturday.
Eskimo gear.
Saturday. High of 59. Low of 36. Or 34, rather. Brother, I promise you, tailgating is going to be coat weather this week.
Yeah, no kidding.
And don't forget, it is a early tailgate this week. Here, special guest will be at what? I don't even know what Lickety's tailgate is. What am I missing? I'm reading messages off our message line, off the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Jennifer said, Ross, she heard that special guest will be there will be a special guest. It must be at someone's tailgate. But lots of tailgate going on. Five Left said he's planning on standing in line for 2 to 3 hours. So I promise you that time is going to be made better than you think. We're going to work on some things to take care of that. We're talking about some food earlier, man. What is it that you do that crazy?
Crazy. I made a whiskey pie.
Yes, a whiskey pie. Well, that's not crazy. John doesn't eat syrup on his waffles or pancakes.
John, the producer?
Yeah. What's the point? Why don't you just get a piece of bread and fold it over? I mean,
what is happening? Why that? Okay, this is bizarre to me. Okay, let me rephrase this. I've known people, maybe it's not, it is bizarre to me, but I also have known people that just eat butter on their pancakes.
Yeah, if I'm going to eat pancakes, I want the syrup. Now I do get light sugar-free syrup.
Oh,
I do.
I get the expensive $7 a bottle syrup. I don't have pancakes or waffles that often. So if I'm making them, I'm going all out.
I used to have a waffle maker. I wish I had that thing back. Very handy. Very handy.
See, I wish do they sell the ones that they have in those hotel rooms where you could just flip it? Man, I'd love to have one of those.
Oh, you're talking about this on the spin like it's on a spit. Where you just flip it over.
Just spit it over, and then it's
I'm sure you
2 minutes or whatever.
But probably it's not cheap.
Probably not cheap.
What are some? Hold on, I gotta go back. Y'all got crazy with this food thing. There was people said, "Yeah, I'm not a big syrup fan." That was Jennifer. Mike says he's just never had good syrup. Jennifer just prefers her pancakes with just blueberries on top, no syrup. Yeah, it's boring. Healthy.
Blueberries. If ice cream is delicious, not need to have cold.
Ross says chocolate gravy on pancakes was surprisingly good when he tried it.
Chocolate gravy is a thing.
Chocolate gravy.
It's a thing in the South. It is delicious.
Continue. That's the location. What the hell is chocolate gravy?
It's delicious. I don't really know how to explain. Like, I feel like you either know what it is or you don't.
An Arkansas thing?
It's kind of like maybe it originated in Arkansas. I don't know. Shoot.
I feel
like it's a little bit thicker than a sauce. Probably depends on how you make it, but it's like a little bit thicker than a sauce. Like it is a gravy, but it's not.
Does it have chocolate in it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost kind of like the texture of like Nutella. This is how I've had it, by the way. There might be different variations of it.
Wow, that's pretty thick.
Yeah, it would be like a warm sort of Nutella type of texture. Maybe Ross can agree or disagree with that. That's how I've had it. So it might be different in different spots, but it is good.
Go. Chocolate gravy is a cocoa powder with a little bit of sugar, salt, and bacon fat. Oh.
See, maybe I haven't had it. There might be plenty of different variations of it.
We're gonna have to challenge JTP to eat a stack with no syrup, no milk, and no milk.
That's child's play.
That's child's play. That's hilarious.
I like it.
Oh my gosh. Jim, sugar-free everything is worse for you or health. Yes, I don't eat sugar-free everything. And to be honest with you, I agree with you. There was only certain things that I do that on just to, if I'm taking in too much, try to keep the sugar content down. But we'll have to remember some of this stuff on Friday, man. But not this Friday, because what's happening this Friday?
Party.
The chili cook-off, man.
The chili cook-off.
I've got a daggone it, the thing you plug in and put all the stuff in. Crock pot just for you.
Oh, nice.
Make your own. Yeah, I'll have my crock pot. Make my chili. You make your chili. My chili is going to be the best. It's going to win. No doubt about that. I am in complete confidence.
Awful confident here. Awful confident and cocky.
Very. I need to go get my ingredients lined up. I put in a for my serious when I'm really doing it, a Lone Star beer. And
when you're really serious, you're putting Lone Star beer and mushrooms.
A Lone Star beer goes into the big pot of stuff, but over here when I'm doing my meat and a little bit of chopped onions and some jalapenos. Yes, I said jala. I just kidding. One shot of tequila.
All right. Oof, okay.
A little dash of brown salt. Brown sugar.
Brown salt.
Brown sugar.
You don't even know what you put in it. Oh boy.
Trust me, I know.
I know what's happening.
That would be incredible. Tannis half 11 says he uses ribeye as a meat. I use I use ground sirloin.
$16 a bowl of chili using a ribeye.
Well, magic mushroom chili, baby.
Is that shredded?
Right, I don't know how you would get that.
That's what I'm trying to it's got to be shredded or something. I don't know how that. All right. Well, to each their own.
Like just chunks. Some people put chunks into their chili. It's like chunk meat.
Yeah, I think that's how you make it. Do that? Is that how? I've never had chili in Texas. Is that how they make it in Texas? I feel like that's chunk meat.
And they all make it different. No beans. A lot of no beans. I don't think they put beans in their.
I put beans in my chili. I think you're right.
Well.
As long as you don't put noodles in there, you're in good shape. That's the one.
I agree with that. That would not even be allowed in the competition. You would be escorted out.
JD might be ready to throw hands.
Noodles, you bring in chili with noodles, you're going to be asked to leave. Nope, not happening. No noodles and chili, man. Tana said adding noodles makes it goulash.
Thank you.
Not chili.
Yes.
It makes it not chili.
That's what I would classify it as well. Goulash.
Jennifer, I want to talk about Jeffrey Dahmer.
What's happening?
That would be some $high chili. What's up next for us tomorrow, John Boyd?
All right, tomorrow. Hey, sorry. Whenever it's so sudden, I've got to be like, oh shoot!
I had looked down. I was just looking back to see if you'd come on yet.
No, we're good. This week tomorrow we'll have our good friend Mike DeCourcy and Chronic Hoosier. And other than that, it's up to whatever other surprises you might have in store.
Well, the one thing we haven't talked about, and we will, of course, tomorrow is, and if you haven't read it, you need to go read it. Mike DeCourcy's article on
That's right.
Dane Fife. We will talk to Mike about that tomorrow. Talk about what the reaction has been like. And so I'm looking forward to that because, yeah, if you haven't read that, go to the Sporting News and read Mike DeCourcy's piece on Dane Fife. He'll be on with us tomorrow to talk about that. Robert says noodles equals mom's chili. You ain't lying.
Nice.
He's got it. That's dead on. That's dead on.
It is. Yep.
Noodles equals Louisville style chili.
I've never had Louisville style chili.
There
is
you
that
go.
true, John?
My mom
That's the only kind of chili I've ever had, so I guess so.
Oh my, okay. Okay, close out the show. No syrup on his pancakes. Only had noodles when it's chili. We're done here. Call it.
Well, he hasn't had chili.
No. Exactly. He's had goulash.
Hey, at least it's not Skyline and all that garbage they have up there in Cincinnati.
Well, that's a good point. And cinnamon rolls, all that. Boy, we better close out before I go on a tangent here.
Well, Tim went and got some Frankenberry cereal that now is only sold during October.
Yeah, that's fun fact. They only sell Frankenberry, Count Chocula, and whatever the other one is.
Oh,
I think it's Boo
really?
Berry.
Boo Berry. I forgot. Yes, they only sell those during October now. That's hilarious. Well, it is that month, baby. That's where you're wrong. Always either a dash of cinnamon or a dash of
30
brown sugar. We got lots more coming up tomorrow. Can't wait to do it again with you guys. Mike DeCourcy will join us, Chronic Hoosier as well, and of course Dustin Schutte back from outsider.com as always. Big thanks to our friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry. If you're down in the Sellersburg area, make sure you stop by. See Dr. J. Keep that championship smile going, as we all need to have. Looking forward to doing it again tomorrow. I can't thank you guys enough. Thanks to John, of course. Thanks to Dustin Dopirak, Dustin Schutte as well. And looking forward, mostly thanking you guys. As always, without you, no reason to be here. So we're back tomorrow to do it again. Go out and have yourselves a great day. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.